We all have phobias in our life. Johnny Depp fears clowns, Billy Bob Thornton fears antique furniture, and Alfred Hitchcock fears eggs. However, this episode shows that brute of a brother being afraid of one thing: cockroaches. What happens when a cockroach falls into a pool of mutagen and starts going after Raph? You get a mutant with Terminator references! Hiya folks, this is RRPG here, and I'm here to present my review of episode 18 of the Ninja Turtles cartoon for you all. Let's not waste any time and get on with it. This episode is called Cockroach Terminator. By the way, this episode contains explosive nipple guts. Don't ask why, but you'll see what I mean. One evening while Leo, Raph, and Mikey are chowing down on some ramen at the sewer lair dinner table, a cockroach with the camera attached spies on the turtles with Leo and Mike looking at it in confusion. However, when it approaches Raph, he has a panic attack and tries to crush it. Unfortunately for him, the cockroach is saved by Donnie, who tells him to calm down, and they all question Raph's unusual fear of the critter. Donatello introduces his brothers to the Spyroach, and he says that they can use it to spy on the Krang and to see what they are up to. They all become fond of the idea, and they all go out in the Shellraiser to one of the Krang's hideouts and to see what they are currently plotting. They catch a glimpse of them planning on utilizing a diamond lens to power this laser drill so that it can hit the Earth's core and cause destruction on New York City. Not knowing exactly what they are talking about in scientific terms, Raph begins questioning their motives towards Donnie. But his brother becomes irritated at Raph's lack of intelligence, which causes the Spyroach's control to fall the critter into a pool of mutagen. Uh-oh, this is not going to be good. As the mutated cockroach bursts out of the mutagenic pool, it starts to attack the Krang and searches outside for where the turtles are located. It spots their van, and Don begins having blurry visions as to where the diamond lens could be located. The turtles begin driving to determine the exact location of the power source, but they run over something that makes the Shellraiser jump. They all go outside, and they discover that they ran over the mutated Spyroach. Raph begins panicking, and Don realizes what the roach truly was. As Mikey teases Raph about his phobia, the cockroach gets up and goes after Raph without noticing the others. Leo, Mike, and Don try to stop the critter, but are brushed aside as it is still strong enough to walk. Raph goes into a huge panic and starts firing manhole covers from the Shellraiser's gun turret, and the Spyroach is knocked down. Leo stops his brother from firing, and they all start to make their way to where the Krang are headed. However, that Spyroach gets up and follows their tracks as the turtles find the Krang with the diamond lens, and they knock down their van to try to get it back. As their battle is about to begin, the Spyroach appears out of nowhere and starts attacking everything in its path. It goes after the turtles, and the Krang manage to get the diamond lens back so that they can resume their task. Leo, Mike, and Don fight the beast once more, while Raph crawls into the fetal position from behind the Shellraiser, and the beast is about to hurt him until Mikey shows up with a can of bug spray to weaken it. As it is weakened, the mutant gets hit by a semi-truck that crashes into a building, and the turtles continue their trek for the Krang. While in the van, Leo begins scolding Raph for his phobia, and they all wonder why it keeps following them. Donnie configures the video feed from the Spyroach, and they learn that it only goes after Raph because of him trying to squash it at the beginning. Ouch, nice knowing you, Raphy boy. The cockroach tracks down the turtles' van from the sewers, and he stops them from their pursuit by damaging the Shellraiser from underneath. Knowing there is no way out from its constant tracking, Leo devises a plan where he uses Raph as bait to lure the cockroach towards him, while he and Mikey try to finish it off, while Donnie fixes the Shellraiser. They try this plan at first by trapping it in a garbage can, but that plan doesn't bode well as the mutant continues his march towards the hothead. Raph passes by wet cement and cowers in an alleyway only to be scolded by it when it turns out that the voice actually came from Mikey. This makes Raph really angry, but Leo comes in and tells Raph that he actually stopped the cockroach. How so? Well, it molted in the wet cement to prevent the critter from further walking, but it only gets worse as the beast emerges in a new larval form that can fly. The turtles run back to the Shellraiser with Donnie already completing repairs, and they hurry on to the Krang facility with that mutant on their tail to no end. It arrives at the top of the van, and enters its arm to where Mikey is taken away. Knowing that everything is his fault and that his brother is in danger, Raph immediately tells Leo that he is going after the roach to stop it and to conquer his fear altogether. Donnie lends his brother the ninja stealth bike to lure it to where Raph is going, while the others head for the Krang lair to stop the aliens from achieving their goal. As Raph is luring the Cockroach Terminator with the stealth bike, this crafty critter is throwing its trademark weapon, explosive nipple guts! The guts come out of the Spyroach and it throws them to unleash explosive power onto things. However, Raph manages to hold his ground as he continues following his brothers, who have now got themselves trapped in the trapdoor leading to the Krang hideout. As those three battle the aliens, Raph makes a huge leap of faith with the stealth bike up to where the laser drill is, and the hothead has an awesome confrontation with the Spyroach. This fight is really good, and Raph manages to destroy it with the laser drill as well as destroying the machination in the process. Our heroes manage to escape unscathed while leaving the Krang facing utter defeat. But some of the Spyroach's guts are on the road toward the lair, which shows an offspring forming from within it. Looks like Raph has another arch nemesis down the road. Oh dear. At the sewer lair, the turtles congratulate Raph in conquering his fear, but Mikey teases him for saying he hid a cockroach in Raph's shell all this time. This forces his brother to run and scream like a little girl, his brothers watch with laughter, and episode 18 wraps up at that climax. As you might have guessed, this episode is nothing but filler that really doesn't add anything important to the main storyline of the show. However, I found this episode to be quite enjoyable in that faction. I'll save my final summary for the end and start off by talking about the good and then the bad. The first thing I liked, which is a no-brainer, is the amount of Terminator references that are within this episode's plot. Raph plays the role of Sarah Connor, the Spyroach plays the role of Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator, minus any dialogue from the character, and any of the other turtles could play the role of Kyle Reese. Now, don't get any funny ideas that one of them will bear Raph's child, because that is just completely impossible and ridiculous. Anyway, just the fact that you have a turtle having a big fear of something so small that turns out to be a killer mutant that hunts him down constantly only gives us a ride that is really fun. I like it how Raph develops his character from being a wuss toward the insect and stands up to it at the episode's climax, even if it isn't canon. Now, I'm not sure if the second form is supposed to be based on the skeletal form of the Terminator or based on the T-1000's design, but the second design came off being really cool. If you haven't seen the Terminator or its sequel, Judgment Day, go check them out as you'll see what I mean. I thought that the Turtles' new motorcycle called the Ninja Stealth Bike looked pretty cool. Its design reminded me of the Tumbler and the Batpod from Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy, and I really like it that way. It can shapeshift into two modes to present itself to be portrayed as one of those vehicles, and it can go into stealth mode to avoid detection, which it helped Raph for a bit before alerting the Spyroach of its presence. If I had to complain about something, then its design could have had more color and style, but it's only a minor issue I have with it, so who cares? If there was something about this filler I actually liked for once, is that the Turtles have their first full episode of screen time alone. No Splinter, no April, just our reptilian heroes. It's usually best for them and their allies to be together, but for something fun like this can make this episode an exception. Finally, I have to mention that the whole thing with the Spyroach, whose name is Chong by the way, is the fact that it can throw explosive guts that it attains from underneath its nipples. I know they are underneath the cockroach's skin, but for them being underneath and inside its chest only leaves it vulnerable to the fact that we can call them explosive nipple guts. I had no idea that a kids show aimed for newer and older fans of the franchise would have innuendos attached to something in some capacity. Very clever for what you did there, Nickelodeon. I was wrong about you. Oh, and the one bit with Mikey teasing Raph by voicing the Spyroach and getting his butt kicked was pretty hilarious, so that added a bonus to the episode's charm. Now I know what you're all thinking. What did I have wrong with this episode? Let's see. If there was something I had to gripe about, it would be that most of the action is pretty light where most of it was kept for Raph's fight against the cockroach. Either way, that could be for better or for worse in both cases. Probably the biggest letdown was that there wasn't that much to the plot of what the Krang are trying to do, and how it becomes a focal point to the overall plot of the episode. It's more like they go after something very generic and try to use its source to damage the Earth's core so that the magma from it can hit New York City to raise it into a blazing inferno. That totally detracts from their plans to bring about their own kind from Dimension X onto Earth, and it really isn't that riveting at all. Other than that, Episode 18 comes off being a very enjoyable side story that gives us something to take a break from some of the seriousness and cranks that fun factor to the max. If you like the Turtles and wish they did something that pays very good respect to a big blockbuster franchise in the form of one episode, this will be your ticket to enjoyment. Episode 18 gets an 8 out of 10 from me. I would give it more points, but the fact that the action was light and the Krang being secondary in this episode's plot only hurts it a tad bit. But the whole thing with the explosive nipple guts, that's freaking awesome. I would love to talk more about this episode, but there comes a point where I need to stop, so we'll wrap up things here. I hope you enjoyed that review, and be on the lookout for my next one that covers episode 19, Baxter's Gambit. That mad scientist has a plan to get rid of the Turtles as well as Shredder's mutant henchmen to where both sides have to work together? Sounds like a lot of fun, and it truly is. You'll have to see the episode to believe it. I made a Naruto reference, didn't I? Anyway, Be sure to rate and favorite this video, as well as leaving your positive and negative feedback in the comments below. Also, hit that subscribe button up there, as more support from you guys means more content will come from me in the future. This is Double RPG signing off, and I'll see you in the next one.